My name is John Santos. I'm 48 years old, and I work as a construction foreman here in Greenville, a small town in Tennessee. I was born and raised in this good land, son of Antonio and Maria, in a simple but united family. My father was a mason, my mother a seamstress, and they raised me and my brother Charlie with lots of love and few resources. I never believed much in those otherworldly things, you know. I've always been down to earth, a hard-working man, a Sunday Catholic, one of those who goes to the 7 o'clock Mass, greets everyone on the way out, and goes home for dinner with Anna. I always thought life was what we see right here. Work, family, some friends to have a beer with on weekends. No great mystery in life, no deep philosophy, until what I'm about to tell you happened. My brother Charlie was 3 years younger than me, but since we were little, it seemed like he was the one taking care of me. We grew up together in that simple house on Maple Street, played in the same red dirt in our mother's backyard, climbed the same peach trees, worked side by side since we were boys, first helping Dad with smaller construction jobs, then each following our own path. He was always more laid back than me, always laughing, always coming up with a joke to make everyone laugh. I remember when we were teenagers, I'd get nervous having to talk to any girl, and Charlie would come up beside me with some silly joke that broke the ice. I was the serious one, the responsible one, the one our parents called when they needed to solve something important. He was the family's joy, the one who made everyone laugh at the dinner table. Our mother always said, "John is my right hand, but Charlie is my joy." And it was true. When she got sick around 70 years old, I was the one running after doctors, organizing medications, taking care of the practical stuff. But it was Charlie who showed up at the hospital with a borrowed guitar and sang the songs she loved, who made up little stories to distract her during physical therapy sessions. Charlie worked as a welder at a metalworks company in the region, Tennessee Steel Works. He was good at what he did, very respected by his colleagues. He had those skilled hands that seemed to dance when he was working with the torch. The other welders always came to ask his opinion when they had a more complicated weld. He married Marcy when he was 28. They met at a church. A barbecue here. She was an elementary school teacher, all delicate, and he was smitten. I remember their wedding. I was best man, of course, and I'd never seen Charlie so happy. When Gabriel was born in 2010 and then Lily in 2015, he became the most doting father that ever existed. Every weekend was the same thing. Charlie would show up at our house with the kids, Marcy would bring a cake, and we'd stay in the backyard watching the little ones play. He taught Gabriel to fly kites, built dollhouses for Lily with leftover wood from construction sites. His life seemed on track, you know how it is. A beautiful family, stable work, the little house he'd managed to finance. But in December 2023, we received news that changed everything. It started with a cough that wouldn't go away. Charlie thought it was the flu, a cold, those end-of-year things. But the cough got worse, and along came shortness of breath that wasn't normal. Marcy insisted he go to the doctor, but you know men, right? Stubborn as they come. It was only when he fainted at work that he agreed to go to the hospital. Dr. Henderson, our family doctor for years, ordered some tests that took forever to come back. I remember the day the results came out. It was a Friday, end of December, everyone preparing for Christmas. Lung cancer. Aggressive. Those words you only hear on television, never imagine you'll hear about someone in your family. The doctor said maybe he had a few months, at most a year if the treatment worked. I remember like it was yesterday, the day he told me. We were having a beer in the backyard, sitting on those wooden stools our father made about 20 years ago, watching the sunset paint the sky orange. The cicadas were singing loud. It was that December heat that stuck to your skin. He was quiet for a while, just fiddling with the beer can, making that metallic sound. Then he looked up, looked at me real serious and said, "Bro, looks like my journey here is coming to an end." I didn't accept it at first. I said he was going to get better, that he was going to fight, that our family didn't give up easy. Charlie, you have 2 young kids, a wife who adores you, a bunch of people who need you. Don't give me that talk. And he did fight, you know, with a strength I didn't even know existed in him. He did chemotherapy at the regional hospital, radiation therapy in Nashville. I was the one who drove him every week on that road we knew by heart. He lost his hair, lost about 15 pounds, but never lost his smile. It was impressive. Even weak, even suffering from the medication side effects, he still made jokes at the hospital, still comforted us when we should have been comforting him. The nurses loved him. Mrs. Betty, who had worked in oncology for 30 years, said she'd never seen such a brave patient. During the months of treatment, I practically lived at the hospital with him. Anna understood. Poor thing. She took care of our house, my work when I needed to miss, and never complained once. Marcy stayed with the kids during the week, trying to keep their routine normal, and I slept in the chair next to his bed. They were long nights, you know. The hospital at dawn has a heavy silence, only broken by the sound of machines and nurses' footsteps in the hallway. We talked about everything. About childhood, about the mischief we did when we were boys, about the dreams we had, about regrets. He told me things he'd never told before. How nervous he got on his wedding day, afraid Marcy would back out at the last minute. How he cried in secret when Gabriel was born, because he couldn't believe he could be so happy. How guilty he felt for not taking better care of his health, for smoking so much when he was younger. John, he told me one night. It was March already, the trees outside beginning to yellow. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of leaving my family, helpless. I'm afraid Gabriel will grow up without remembering his father, that Lily won't know how much I loved her. It was that night he made me a promise that, at the time, I thought was just his way of comforting me. John, if someday you need me and I'm not here by your side, you can be sure I'll find a way to appear. I don't know how, but I'll find a way. I laughed at the time, thought it was his romanticism, but I engraved those words in my heart. The last days were the hardest. Charlie was very weak, could barely speak, but whenever I arrived in the room, he'd open a little smile and squeeze my hand. Marcy practically lived there too during this time, and the kids came to visit every day after school. Gabriel, who was 13, stayed quiet in the corner, trying to be strong like he thought he should be. Lily, with her 8 little years, didn't really understand what was happening, but felt that something very serious was going on. Charlie passed on in April. Morning, very early, when the birds were starting to sing outside. It was a beautiful day, one of those that makes you think life can be perfect. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. It was peaceful, you know, like he had simply fallen asleep after a long journey. Marcy, the kids, Anna and I were all there. He didn't die alone, and I'm sure that was important to him. The wake was at the church hall, and people came from everywhere. Work colleagues, neighbors, childhood, friends, people he had helped throughout his life that I didn't even know existed. Pastor John said he rarely had seen a farewell with so much demonstration of affection. But for me, all of that seemed unreal, like I was seeing everything from the outside, like it wasn't happening to me. The pain was so great that I couldn't even cry properly. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. I, who had always been strong, who always held the family together, found myself lost. I started working too much, took job after job, stayed late at construction sites just so I wouldn't have to go home and feel the emptiness Charlie left. That's when my body started giving signs. Chest pains, shortness of breath, fatigue that wouldn't go away. Anna insisted I go to the doctor, but stubborn me, I thought it was just tiredness. Until one Monday in August, I was checking a concrete slab when I felt a terrible pain in my chest, like someone had stuck a knife in it. I fainted, right there. I woke up in the hospital in the ICU, full of wires attached to me, Anna by my side, eyes red from crying so much. The doctor, Dr. Richards, explained that I'd had a severe heart attack. "Mr. John, you almost didn't make it. Your heart stopped for a few minutes during surgery. In the first days, I was heavily sedated, going in and out of consciousness like I was diving and surfacing in a deep lake. Sometimes I'd wake up and see Anna there. Sometimes it was the nurse. Checking the machines, sometimes I didn't even know where I was. The medications left me kind of confused, with a heavy head. Dr. Richards explained it was normal, that my body was recovering from major trauma. It's like a car that crashed badly, he said. We fix the most important parts first, then adjust the rest later. But it was on the third night that something happened that to this day, I don't really know how to explain. It was dawn, must have been around 3 o'clock. The hospital was in that heavy silence that only exists at dawn, broken only by the sound of those machines that keep beeping, marking heartbeats, breathing, blood pressure. Anna had gone home to rest a bit. I had insisted because she'd been sleeping in that uncomfortable chair for 3 days and had a tired look that worried me. "Go sleep in our bed," I said. "Tomorrow you come back. I'm not going anywhere." I was staring at the ceiling, counting the little holes in the plaster tiles. A habit I'd developed in recent days to try not to think about anything, when suddenly I smelled something I knew well. It was the cologne Charlie always wore, that Old Spice that Marcy gave him every birthday and Christmas. The first thing I thought was, must be some hospital employee who uses the same brand. But the smell got stronger, closer, like when someone approaches you. And there was something different about it, something that reminded me specifically of Charlie, not just the cologne. I closed my eyes tight, thinking it was something from the medication. Dr. Richards had warned that the drugs could cause mental confusion, hallucinations. "It's normal," he had said. "It passes in a few days." But when I opened my eyes again, I almost screamed in shock. He was there. It wasn't like in the movies you see on television, you know. There was no bright light or background music or anything like that. Charlie was simply sitting in the chair where Anna stayed. During the day, exactly like he was in life, only different too. He looked younger, like he had gone back 10 years in time. His skin no longer had that pallor from the last months of illness. His face was full again. His hair had returned, dark brown as it always was. He was wearing that blue and white checkered shirt he liked so much, the one Marcy always said made him look more handsome. I kept staring at him without being able to blink, as if blinking would make him disappear. My heart raced. I could hear the machines beeping, accelerating, but it wasn't from fear. It was from a mixture of joy, surprise, and an emotion I don't even know how to describe. "Hey, bro," he said, with that sideways little smile I knew so well, his voice exactly the same. "Trying to follow me, are you?" I tried to speak, but it was like my throat had closed. I could only look at him, feeling tears running down my face. It was really him. It was my brother. It was Charlie. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, like he did when he wanted to give me serious advice or when he was worried about something. It was such a characteristic gesture of his that I felt like my chest was going to explode with longing. "John, do you remember what I said at the hospital? That if you needed me, I'd find a way to appear. Well, here I am. But listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. It's not your time yet. You still have a lot to do here." His voice was calm, caring, but had an authority I'd never heard before. Like he knew things I didn't know, like he had a broader view of life. He pointed to the window, where the day was beginning to break, that pink light of dawn painting the clouds. "Gabriel is having trouble at school, you know. His grades dropped a lot after I left. He's confused, angry, thinking it was his fault I got sick. He's going to need the uncle he always admired to help him understand it wasn't anyone's fault. How did he know that? Marcy hadn't told me about Gabriel's grades, but there in that moment, I simply accepted that he knew. Lily is growing up and soon she'll start asking questions about me. Questions that Marcy won't know how to answer alone because she's focused on her own pain. She'll want to know about her father through your stories, your memories. Who else can tell her what I was like as a child, the mischief we did? Tears were streaming down my face. I wanted to hug him, wanted to apologize for not taking better care of my health, for letting myself be consumed by longing. Bro, he continued, I didn't go anywhere. I just changed addresses. And whenever you remember me with love, whenever you tell Gabriel and Lily one of our stories, whenever you look at the sunset and remember our conversations, I'll be here. He got up and came to the edge of the bed. He put his hand on my chest, right where it hurt. Your heart is hurt, but not just from the arterial blockages. It's hurt from guilt, from unresolved longing. You weren't to blame for what happened to me, John, and I don't want you to carry that weight. His touch was warm, real, like it always was. Take care of our family, bro. Take care of Marcy when she's sad. Take care of the kids. Tell them their father was happy, that he loved them more than anything in the world. And take care of yourself too, because I need you to live well to honor our story. I finally managed to speak. With a hoarse voice, Charlie, I miss you so much. I know, bro, I miss you all too, but we'll meet again at the right time. Now you need to live. You need to be happy. Promise me? I nodded, and he smiled that way he did when we were kids, and he managed to convince me to do some mischief. Then it's settled. Now I need to go, but you'll always know I'm around. Every time a song we liked plays on the radio, every time you smell wet earth like in our backyard, every time you see a beautiful sunset, you'll know it's me sending a hug. He moved away from the bed, still smiling. And stop working so much, man. Anna's right when she complains. Life is meant to be lived, not just worked. When I blinked again, he wasn't there anymore. But the cologne still lingered in the air, and I felt a peace in my chest that I hadn't felt in months. It was like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The next morning, when Dr. Richards came to examine me, he was surprised. Mr. John, today's tests are much better than yesterday's. Did you sleep well? I smiled. Doctor, I had the best conversation of my life. He must have thought I was a bit confused from the medication but didn't question it. Anna arrived soon after, and for the first time in months, I saw her really smile when she saw me awake and in good spirits. I told her about Charlie's visit. At first, she was worried, thought it might be medication hallucination. But when she saw how different I was, lighter, she said, John, it doesn't matter if it was real or not. What matters is that you came back to me. I left the hospital a week later with a list of medications to take, exercise schedules to follow, and a diet that Anna embraced as a personal mission, but mainly with a new perspective on life. It was like someone had cleaned the glasses I used to see the world. The first thing I did when I got home was sit in the backyard on those stools our father made and cry, but it wasn't that bitter crying from recent months anymore. It was crying from relief, gratitude, longing mixed with love. The second thing was to call Marcy. Marcy, I need to talk to you and the kids. There are some things Charlie asked me to take care of. When they came the following Sunday, I gathered everyone in the living room. Gabriel had that closed-off teenager rebel face. Lily stuck to my leg like she always did. Marcy had deep, dark circles, too thin, clearly not, taking good care of herself. Folks, I want to tell you about a conversation I had with Charlie, I began. Gabriel rolled his eyes. Uncle, Dad died. We don't talk to people who died. Gabriel, Marcy scolded, but I raised my hand. No, Marcy, he's right to question. Gabriel, come here. Sit here next to me. I told them about the encounter at the hospital, but adapted the language for each one's age. To Gabriel, I talked about responsibility and how his father would be proud if he overcame the difficulties at school. To Lily, I promised I would tell all the stories about her father that she wanted to hear. "Uncle, did Dad really talk about me?" Gabriel asked, and for the first time in months I saw a sparkle in his eye. "He did, champ. He said you're going through a difficult phase, that you're angry and confused, but that you have everything to overcome this. And you know what? Your father went through the same thing when our grandfather died. He was exactly your age." From that day on, I created a new routine. Every Wednesday after work, I'd go to Marcy's house to help Gabriel with homework. It wasn't easy. He was really struggling with math and English. But gradually, we built an intimacy that didn't exist before. "Uncle, what was Dad like at school?" he asked one of those afternoons. I laughed, remembering. "Your father was terrible at math. I had to help him. But you know what he was good at? Making everyone laugh. He'd make up jokes during recess that even the teachers would laugh at. I started telling stories from our childhood, about mischief, about dreams we had. Gabriel would listen with shining eyes, discovering a father he only knew as a responsible adult. With Lily, I created another ritual. Every Sunday morning after church, she'd come to our house and we'd make an album of photographs and stories about Charlie. She'd draw. I'd write the stories she wanted to remember. "Uncle John, tell me about when Daddy was little like me," she'd always ask. And I'd tell about how he took care of injured birds he found in the backyard, about how he defended me from bigger boys at school, about how he dreamed of being a welder since he was little because he thought it was beautiful when he saw sparks flying. Marcy also started getting better gradually. She went back to dressing up, went back to leaving the house for more than just work and groceries. One afternoon she confessed to me, "John, I was dying along with him. Thank you for reminding me. I still have a life to live." At the construction site, the changes were equally significant. I stopped accepting weekend work. "Folks, weekends are for family," I announced to the workers, who looked like they'd seen a flying saucer. I started getting home earlier, participating in dinner, asking Anna how her day was. I discovered she was taking a correspondence craft course, an old dream she never told me about because she thought I'd find it silly. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I asked. "Because you were always so tired, so worried about work. I thought it was one more thing to stress you out." That night, I promised her we'd take a trip when I got completely better. "Choose the place, Anna. Anywhere you want to go." She chose Gatlinburg. Always wanted to see those mountain cabins, try hot chocolate on a cold afternoon. We scheduled it for October, when I'd be cleared by doctors to travel. At work, I also started paying more attention to my employees. Joe, who's worked with me for 10 years, was worried because his teenage son had started hanging with a bad crowd. Maria, a helper who started recently, was struggling to pay rent after her husband lost his job. Instead of just saying congratulations at the end of the month and goodbye, I started talking to them. I helped Joe find a sports activity for his son, basketball at a community center nearby that accepted him for free. I got some extra jobs for Maria to do on Saturdays, cleaning houses for our clients. "Mr. John has changed," I heard Maria commenting to another employee. "He's more human now, isn't he?" The word kept hammering in my head, more human. That's what Charlie had taught me that night at the hospital, that taking care of each other is what makes us truly human. 3 months after my heart attack, on an October afternoon, I was having a beer in the backyard. Just one, because now there was a limit. When one of those coincidences that Charlie had promised happened, I was thinking about him, remembering a conversation we had about dreams. He really wanted to see the ocean, had never left Tennessee. Suddenly, the kitchen radio, which was playing softly, started playing a song he loved, "Take Me Home, Country Roads" by John Denver. It wasn't a song that played frequently on local radio, and it played precisely at that moment, that melody he always hummed when he was happy. I smiled and said quietly, "Thanks for the hug, bro." Other situations like that kept happening. One afternoon when I was particularly sad, it was his birthday. I came home and smelled wet earth in the backyard, even though it hadn't rained. Anna confirmed she smelled it too. Another time, I was driving to a job in Franklin, worried because the client was being difficult, when I saw the most beautiful sunset of my life. Orange, pink, red, gold, like someone had spilled paint across the sky. I stopped the truck on the shoulder just to look and remember Charlie's words. It could be coincidence, it could be the mind-making connections that don't exist. But for me, they're the hugs he promised to send, and each one gives me strength to continue. 6 months after my heart attack, I did all the follow-up tests. Dr. Richards was genuinely impressed with my recovery. "Mr. John, clinically, you're much better than I expected. Not just physically, emotionally too. Whatever changed in your life, keep doing it." I smiled. "Doctor, I learned we can't waste the time we have, and that taking care of those we love includes taking care of ourselves too." The changes spread to other aspects of life. Gabriel not only improved his grades, but became one of the best students in his class. He discovered he had a knack for technical drawing, maybe genetic influence from his welder father. Today, he talks about studying engineering. Lily became the family's official storyteller. At every event, she asks to tell something about her father. At Marcy's last birthday, she told the whole family about how Charlie used to serenade her mother when they were dating. Marcy started dating again. A good man, also widowed, who understands she had a great love before and that doesn't diminish what they're building. When she told me, she was afraid of my reaction. "Marcy, Charlie would be happy to know you found someone to take care of you and the kids. He just wanted you all to be happy." Anna and I took our trip to Gatlinburg. It was 4 days that felt like a second honeymoon. We walked hand in hand through the streets, ate hot chocolate, bought some silly souvenirs she loved. On the last night, sitting on the hotel balcony looking at the mountains, she told me, "John, these have been the best months of our life together. Not because you weren't a good husband before, but because now you're truly present." Today, 2 years later, I can say, I'm a man at peace. I still work, still have my daily worries, still miss Charlie, especially on special dates, on his birthday, at Christmas, when the family gathers and I feel his absence at the table. But I learned that loving someone who's gone doesn't mean living in the past or destroying yourself with sadness. It means honoring that person's memory by living the best way possible, being the best version of ourselves, taking care of those who remain. Gabriel got into engineering, school at UT Knoxville. On results day, he called me crying with joy. "Uncle, I got in. I'm sure Dad is proud." Lily, now 10, is in a school play playing the narrator, her choice, because she loves telling stories. She said she wants to be a teacher like her mother, but also wants to write books. Marcy got married in a simple, beautiful civil ceremony. I walked her down the aisle, like Charlie would have done if he were her father. During the vows, she looked at the sky and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me how to love." Anna realized her dream of a craft studio. We set up a little room in the back of the house where she does her work and teaches classes to the neighbors. She's radiant, fulfilled, and I'm the proudest husband in the world. And me? I learned that sometimes guardian angels wear checkered shirts and have our younger brother's crooked smile. I learned that love is stronger than death, and that taking care of those who remain is the best way to honor those who are gone. Every Sunday, after lunch, I still sit in the backyard with a beer. But now I always leave a can beside me, like Charlie suggested. It never disappears. but I like to think maybe he manages to take a sip too. On afternoons when the sunset is especially beautiful, I still talk to him. Thanks for the hug, bro. And I'm sure that from somewhere, somehow he answers, always, John, always. I don't know if you believe in these things about spiritual visits. Maybe it was a hallucination caused by medication. Maybe it was my subconscious giving me the answers I needed to hear. But for me, it was real. And what matters is that conversation saved me, not just physically, but emotionally. If you're going through a loss, if you're carrying guilt or longing that's consuming you, I want you to know those who truly love us don't want to see us suffering without purpose. They want to see us living, taking care of each other, finding joy even in missing them. Life is a gift, folks, and the best way to be grateful for this gift is to live it fully, with love, with purpose, taking care of those who remain, and honoring those who are gone. Charlie, if you're listening to this from wherever you are, I want you to know I'm keeping my promise, bro. I'm living, I'm taking care of our family, and every sunset I remember you with a smile on my face. This story reminds us that true love transcends all barriers, including death. Whether through a real spiritual experience or the wisdom we carry within us from those we love, there's always a way to find peace and move forward. If you've recently lost someone dear, remember, there's no right way to experience grief. Each person has their time and process. The important thing is not to isolate yourself and seek help when needed. Leave in the comments how you honor the memory of those you love. Let's create a chain of love and mutual support here. Your words might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Thank you so much for reading this far. May you all find peace in your hearts and strength to keep caring for each other. A big hug, and until next time.